Oh, my friends, I am just getting out of the gym, feeling super inspired this morning. I have been posting, writing about, and reflecting on Brahma Land, this little second year experiment of building community that friends and I have been creating. It's one part music festival, one part wellness and healing retreat, one part adult summer camp and playground. And it literally just brings my heart so much freaking joy. And this year was such a beautiful success. And just living in the energy of that, I feel so clear on the importance of community. And that's what I'm feeling inspired to reminisce about right now. And here we go. Yeah, let's see. Community is just such an integral part of human flourishing, human survival in general. We never really got along well on our own. If you were on your own in the Saharan plains back in the day, your ass was going to get eaten up by a tiger. We live and thrive in numbers, and so we're very programmed as social beings. And yet I think we find ourselves in a world, in a society, in a culture that isn't leading us to the best communities, the best type of social connection. And there's a couple examples where I see us sort of falling flat in terms of just this inherent need. We're all really looking for connection. We're all looking for interconnectedness. On a deeper spiritual level, we are all interconnected, but on a very human level, we're designed to socialize and to be interdependent creatures. And yet, in this world that is hyper, at least in the Western world, like hyper individualistic, we're really, maybe shying away from or closing ourselves off from a willingness to connect, even though deep down that's what we're longing for. And so I see a couple spaces where we are sort of grasping for community in really unhealthy ways, not knowing how to lean into it, find it, connect with it, create it in healthier ways. And that's what I'll, lean towards advising at the end of this. The first place that I see this, and this conversation is very inspired by the work of Sam Harris. The Waking Up app is his baby, and he has podcasts. Really beautiful cognitive neuroscientist who's spent years in Asia studying meditation. Deep, brilliant, thoughtful, thought-provoking conversations come out of him and his guests. And so credit to him for bringing this aspect of the conversation to my world. But I see us grasping for community in identifying with our belief systems. In this current climate, we're so polarized, not just politically, but in terms of how we see people. We really, in a deeper level, we as very ego-driven beings who hopefully are growing out of that tendency to be super ego-driven, we identify with our habits, with our thoughts, with our feelings, with our beliefs. And I see a world that really needs community, but doesn't have, or not everybody has solid access to healthy community, clinging to their belief systems and guarding themselves in a you versus me kind of way against others, in a way that I think fulfills a need in an unhealthy way for that sense of community. Because when we say, I'm a Democrat, I'm on the left, I'm liberal, you kind of are like rallying with your crew, but in a very like adversarial way that's very polarized, versus the other community, on the right, the conservatives, yada, yada, whatever it is. I don't really get super deep into it, but I'm looking at the philosophical understanding of why we are so clumped up and defensive and polarized. I think it's because we're yearning for community. And when we find a community, people who believe the same thing of us, it's like, yes, you're my people. Like, and anybody else is not my people. But it's creating, again, this really unhealthy dynamic that is not actually leaning into the fact that your tribe, though it might be small and, aligned with you and your values, is just one, part of a larger Venn diagram of human beings. Like, human beings is an even larger tribe in which the communities that we are trying to find and connect with should exist within. And even bigger than that is all living beings. And even bigger than that is, our spiritual experience. And, there's all these overlapping, and yet this manifestation of trying to find community, something we really long for and need, is coming in a way that is actually pitting us against our bigger tribe, our human beings. Let's see if I can clean my camera off here. Yep, still pretty grainy. That's okay. Yeah, so, if you find yourself very rigid into your beliefs about this or about that, and unable to listen to another person just on the level of being a human being, I would suggest that maybe you need to find a healthier community that isn't so polarized, that's more inclusive and inviting, because I think that is a primary reason why we are so polarized right now. It's because we need community, and we're finding it in this really ill-informed place. Another example of this yearning for and manifestation of really unhealthy community is in social media. And I think as a tool, it's a really, there's perhaps good intentions in trying to help us, stay connected in a world that's, kind of moving fast and spreading out. And that's a really beautiful thing. That being said, I think the way that it is actualized is really spreading us far too thin. There's a number in psychology called Dunbar's number, and it is the limit of social relationships that we can actually stay up to date with. And so it's around 150. You think about sort of from an evolutionary perspective, back in the day, I don't know how big tribes were, but they certainly weren't as big as a social media following that some of us have these days. And so we find ourselves looking for community, and we're looking for it in this online space. And yet we have everybody from high school, everybody from college, everybody we've ever met, random people that have followed us. And all of a sudden there's thousands of people in our community. And instead of finding actual deep interpersonal connections with any of them, we're spreading our social connectedness far too thin, and in this really surface level way. And so, I want to have a deeper conversation about social media, and I think that will be a continuing one. But in the context of this conversation about community, I think there's the risk of it spreading us far too thin in our search for community, and actually diffusing any ability to connect in a meaningful way. That being said, I think Facebook groups can be really a beautiful tool if used in the right way, and not in that polarizing, us versus them kind of way. And certainly you can bring a level of intentionality to that to connect people on a deeper level. But, at the end of the day, if you are following a bajillion people and, that's you feel like that's good community and socialization for you, I encourage you to think twice about the quality of that versus the quantity of people, because we have limits. We cannot keep up to date in a really fulfilling way with around 150 people. It just becomes too much, and I think there are individual differences for that too. Some people are I got one or two people, that I keep up with, and that's where I'm at. And those differences are beautiful to understand about yourself. Some people are social butterflies, and they can hit that 150 and feel good about each of those relationships. And I think it's worth recognizing the very real limit we have, in general as humans, but also to understand your individual differences. And consider how, the diffusion of connection that a giant network like social media creates with our need for community might affect you in a positive or negative way. So those are two examples. I personally have gotten to a point in life where I recognize that I'm a glue for people, and I love bringing people together. I love to create community, and it's beautiful for me, and then it brings me a lot of joy, and there's nothing that makes me happier than seeing my people just have a great freaking time. I don't know if I'm gonna swear on this. I'm gonna hold off on the F word for now, but we'll see as this continues along. Maybe I'm withholding my true self. I drop F bombs here and there. I'm not gonna lie. So if it comes out, it comes out. Yeah, there's nothing that brings me more joy than bringing people together, creating community, and it's recognizing and understanding that that's an inherent human need, and how it brings healing and growth and support, and inevitably the type of flourishing that I think we all deserve as human beings. I just feel super clear about how important community is, and just want to create it and encourage people to find it in as many ways as I possibly can. So why is community important? I suppose would be a good question that I'm gonna spitball here. Yeah, I mean, again, on that evolutionary perspective, like we are wired socially. On a spiritual perspective, we are all interconnected. It is the natural flow of the universe, of life, to connect, to be connected. And I think when we are stuck in this hyper individualistic sort of shut down culture that's very, guarded and, unwilling to be vulnerable, we're actually shutting ourselves off from life. We're resisting the flow of life. So I think it's on a deeper level, just a very natural law of nature that's programmed into us as a species. Life is just freaking better together. I mean, you have more fun. You can support each other in the things that, we all have strengths and weaknesses. And I found, like, in partnership and in community, we really get to complement those strengths and weaknesses. There's so much more that we can accomplish together. And in a bigger picture way, we need that so desperately right now in a world that is, disconnecting more than we can really afford. We need to come together and not just live in community, but really at a base level, community is about co-creation. And there's something absolutely magical about creating together. Creativity, I have found to be really just the key to a rewarding and fulfilling and beautiful, fun, silly, awesome fucking life. And doing that with somebody, doing that with, a partner or a friend or a group is some next level shit. And so when we're in community, ultimately we are creating, whether that's creating the intentions and the structure for it, or creating the environment, or creating the, what you do together. In the case of our weekend, we're building stages together. We have friends that are offering workshops and bringing their healing gifts. We have friends that are community members that are cooking, the Basalis, shout out to the Basalis, cooking this beautiful handmade pasta dinner and tiramisu. We're all contributing in some way, shape, or form. And there are a lot of communities that are like this. And I've been very fortunate to grow up in the music festival community, which is, really built on love and gratitude and co-creation and connection, which has shown me the way, shown me the light and the importance of community. And, community can gather around anything, whether that's a sport or an art form or, building I, in the future, want to, with friends and community members, build a living community. Anarchist communes are doing something right, just in that they have found a need to connect in a smaller way than I think this world is leading us to. There's a really beautiful documentary, something about happiness, but it really just deeps it. It's on Amazon, I believe, but goes into, the research behind happiness. And there's this really beautiful example of these community living spaces in Denmark. And the Danish are some of the happiest people. The Scandinavians are some of the happiest people on the planet. And, it just goes to show they're leaning into the right things. When you live in a building in community and people are cooking different meals for everybody, you not only get the joy of having support and knowing that you are supported by other human beings and coming together with common intentions, which is just such an empowering thing in of itself. But you also get the gift of giving. Like, it feels so fucking good to give. And I think that's really, at its core, that's what community is about giving, and having a space to give to others and to receive from others. And that is, I think, the most heart opening, empowering, energetic relationship that we can build as human beings, as souls having human experiences. And so community is the essential structure needed to create the space where that evolves. So go out there and find community if you don't have it. And it's totally unique to each of us as individuals, and there's so many different ways that you can find it. And again, I love this this visualization of a Venn diagram. Like, we have not just one family, not just one community. We have many, and they overlap, and certain people exist in both, and there's bigger ones. And I think the biggest one is us as living creatures, if you will, or even one including nature. It depends on how you want to visualize it and what you connect with. But as a practice, if you're leaving this inspired and feeling like you've gained some insight, as a practice, take stock of your current community situation. Where do you find yourself in community? What's the quality of those communities? Do you feel like they encourage the best in you? Do you feel connected to them consistently? Or when you leave them, if they're like a weekly thing, do you feel connected? Or do you feel spread thin, or maybe not necessarily better or empowered? So I guess take stock on both the quantity and the quality of your sense of community right now. And assess, do you feel like you have enough community in your life right now? And if not, where can you find that? There's so many different places that we can find it. And I've given some examples where I think we're finding unhealthy community, but I think in this world that we're shifting into, and as people are starting to open their hearts and become more vulnerable and do the healing work, and recognizing that we have a capacity for so much more happiness than we've been living with up until now, communities are popping up everywhere, and healthy communities are popping up everywhere. And so check in with your environment and see where you can find a space that builds you up and gives you an opportunity to build up others. And that might fall in line with interests that you already have. It might fall in line with things or skills that you want to learn or pick up that you might have interest in, but you've never been, quite ready to jump into. It could come in the form of connecting a group of friends more constructively that you really get along with, creating a text group, sending memes, making plans together, committing to a more consistent cadence of those plans, finding community in events, music festivals, or weekend retreats. There are online groups of so many different shapes and sizes that are, so good for the heart and soul. So look around, and if you are, unsure where to look, I'm more than happy if you want to, reach out to me or maybe make a comment here. I don't know. This is literally the first YouTube video I'm recording. So I'm kind of spitballing things here. Yeah, put a comment in the comment section. Say, hey, I'm interested in this. I don't really know where to find communities. Anybody have any ideas? This can be, social media can be a good and healthy community space, but I think we're in need of so much more. So, perhaps using the comment section here, hopefully we have some good, authentic, well-intentioned commenters and none of this riffraff trolling me shit talkers. And if you're here, you're welcome to stay too. You ain't gonna bother me, but just don't bother anybody else. Let's create a space where we can create together, and that includes the ideas that lead us to more creation. It's a exponential growth, when we start to find the little pieces that open us up. that opening tends to lead to more openings. So start small, take stock, and then get curious. Really, is all it takes. It's getting curious and trusting that the right spaces and places and people are going to fall into your lap if you really are willing to open up and be curious. Okay, lots of love. Thank you for listening. I hope that this was inspiring, insightful, and heartwarming. All the best. Have a beautiful day. Peace.